أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى عترة الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to the second of our talks on bringing it home, Dua Had. And we are looking at Dua Had in honor of Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam, our 11th Imam, whose Shahadat we have just commemorated and whose Wiladat we will be commemorating in a few weeks' time, inshallah. We are looking at Dua Had in preparation for the coming of our Imam, in order that we are preparing for him and inshallah hastening his reappearance, inshallah. So the dua begins with praising Allah, and here, as in all du'as, the etiquette of all du'as, we start off with salawat and finish with salawat because we are told that Allah is too generous not to accept the thing in between the salawats. So in order for our du'as to be accepted, it is a good idea to start and finish with the salawat. Then we start the dua with acknowledging and praising Allah because we need to know who we're actually talking to. It makes us understand Allah. It helps us to understand Allah so that we can actually then connect to Him and love Him. It also gives me the confidence to know that He will be able to give me what I'm asking for in the dua. By acknowledging and praising Allah, then I know for certainty that He has the ability to give me, and the only reason He would not give me is if I am not deserving of it or if it will actually move me away from Him. So it is based on me and my actions. So I need to sort of work on that. Also, by acknowledging and praising Allah, I know that everything comes from Allah, and that then brings about a humbleness and builds humility within me, which breaks the ego and makes me realize that nothing belongs to me and that I'm not in control of anything, and everything comes from Allah. It also breaks shirk because then I know that by asking Allah, by praising Him, by recognizing that everything comes from Him, then I don't have the need to ask or turn to anyone else. It also brings about gratitude and thankfulness within myself, as I know I don't deserve anything, and it is through His generosity that He gives me. And therefore, it then builds a connection with Allah where I love and truly worship and submit to Him, inshallah. So the dua starts off with three main acknowledgements, and I'm going to look at these in a little bit of detail. It says, Allahumma Rabba Nuril Azim. O Allah, who is the Lord of the great light. This Rabb, first of all, this concept of Rabb is, it's not just Lord, it is someone who nourishes, who sustains, who helps us to grow and develop towards our towards our potential, towards our perfection, and therefore then we can walk into paradise. And also we're told that Allah also helps the Imam to grow and develop and grow towards his potential. In fact, we have a hadith that every Thursday night and Friday day, Imam's knowledge grows, and obviously with the knowledge grows his ma'rifah of Allah. So it's this concept of a Rabb is someone who helps us, not only nourishes and sustains us in our physical body, but also in our spiritual body, in order to understand Allah and therefore connect to Allah, inshallah. Now, this concept of Nurul Azim, this great light, we know that the greatest light, the first light ever to be created, the best of creation, was the Holy Prophet, and in extension, the Aimah. We also know that light is something that we're able to see with, where we get guidance from, and that is the duty of the Hujjah in order to allow us to see and guide us towards the truth. Light also, sunlight keeps us alive. And again, the Hujjah of Allah being on the earth keeps us alive, keeps us spiritually alive, keeps the earth from being destroyed. And again, the hadith that comes to mind is he will be like the sun behind the clouds. So he will help us, nourish us, take care of us like the sun does behind the clouds. Then let's move on to the next line, which is Warab al Kursi Rafi. This concept of the kursi, the throne of Allah. This is the powerhouse, the control room. This is where the orders are given to the angels. This is the system of governance of creation. And again, Allah is the Rabb of this Kursi Rafi, and this is in a way connected to the Imam, because the orders of Allah are manifested on the earth through the Imam, the Hujjah of Allah. And we're told the angels actually come down to the Imam. So again, it's a reference to the Imam. And finally, وَرَبَّ الْمَحْرِ الْمَسْجُورِ. He is the Lord of the stormy seas. Now, seas is a reference to water, and we know that water, everything exists and is created with water. It gives us life. Without the Imam, the earth cannot exist. So the Imam gives us life. This concept of masjur, which is turbulence, and where we also are very aware of this turbulence that is within the world during the ghaib of the Imam. And also, if we imagine, when we look at the sea, we see only the superficial layer of the sea. We don't see all the way down to the depths of the sea. And in the same way, when we think of the Imam, we only see the superficial aspect of the Imam. A lot of the times we think of the Imam as a fiqh expert, as someone who will just give us the rules, but he is so much more than that. And we may have the ilm of the Imam, we may know his name and his father's name and his mother's name and where he was born and so forth, but do we actually have marifah of the Imam? And that is like a much deeper knowledge and understanding of the Imam, where we need to sort of, when the sea is a stormy sea, it's like it's bubbling, and all the things that are underneath it are brought to the forefront, up to the sea level, up so that it can be seen. And in the same way, we need to actually delve deep into our knowledge to actually see, if we reflect on how much we know our Imam, and how much we need to actually know him more, so that we can actually then emulate him. We need to have this marifah of him, because the hadith says that whoever does not have marifah of the Imam will die a death of jahiliyyah. It doesn't say ilm, it says marifah, which is a much deeper knowledge of the Imam. Also here, I would like to refer you to the fact that the Kursi is above which is the Alamul Ghaib, the unknown world, the Arsh and so forth, and the Bahr al-Masjur, below which, the seas is, we don't know what's underneath that. And so Allah is the Rabb, whether we can see him or we can't, whether it's above the arsh or below the bahar, below the seas, he is the Rabb. He is the Rabb of everything that exists. And in the same way, he is the Rabb of the Imam, whether he is manifested in front of us or whether he's hidden, whether we can see him or we can't. Allah is the Rabb of him. And so it's a reference to the Imam here. The next part of the dua talks about guidance through the books and the messengers, who not only brought the books but explained the books to us. And obviously, our living Imam is the living, walking, talking Quran, who emulated the Quran. So here we're told that وَمُنزِلَ التَّوْرَاةِ وَإِنْجِيلِ وَزَبُورِ, and the revealer of the Torah, Injil, and Zabur, وَرَبَّ الظِّلِّ وَالْحَرُورِ, Lord of the shadows, and the manifest, and the thing that is lighted up. وَمُنزِلَ الْقُرْآنِ الْعَظِيمِ, and the revealer of the great Quran. Here you can see that there is the books are mentioned, and then there is a line in between, and then the Holy Quran is mentioned. And this is quite important, because it shows that there is a gap between what were the previous books and what is now the book. There is the Quran came as the final, the complete, the perfect, and the protected book, and it is for all times. So there is actually a division between the previous books and the Holy Quran, to show that the Quran is at a different level to the previous books. It is the most perfect word of Allah. And also the line in between actually talks about the concept of Allah being the Rabb of the shadows and the what is manifest, what is in the light. So whether we believe in this guidance or not, it is there. In the same way that Allah is the Rabb and fulfills the concept of the Rabb, the nourisher, the sustainer, even for those who do not believe or do not see him or do not acknowledge him. In the same way, our Imam, whether we see him or not, fulfills the duties of an Imam, fulfills what is required of an Imam, whether he's in ghaiba or not, whether he's in the shadows or whether he is manifest within the light. It's beautiful how it all comes together. And then Allah goes on to talk, and then sorry, the dua goes on to talk about Allah being the Rabb of the grand angels, wa Rabb malaikatul muqarrabin, wal anbiya'i wal mursaleen, and the prophets and the messengers. So the guidance, the books came through the angels. They were delivered through the grand angels, and they were conveyed and explained to mankind by the prophets and the messengers. So this whole part of the dua is actually talking about this guidance that is there for us, not only through the Quran, but through the hujjah of Allah on the earth as well. So how do we bring this home practically? We need to reflect on this guidance that Allah has given me and connect to it. So connect to the Thaqalain, connect to the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. And I need to connect to it by actually reciting the Quran every single day, connect it to the Holy Quran every single day, and reflect on its verses, and actually get to know the Ahlul Bayt through the Holy Quran, and get to know the Quran through the Ahlul Bayt as well. So I need to think of some SMART goals where I am, looking at what I can do on a daily, weekly basis in order to get more connection and more understanding of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, inshallah. Please join me next Monday on the next part of the dua, reflecting on the next part of the dua of Dua Had. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.